This is our like 10-second music. Yeah, we got you. Scott Middleton started calling these things in my head.
It's all good. What did you do the first time?
Guys, it's gonna be a good show this time. It's gonna be a good show this time. Every single time. Welcome back to DriveWire.
It's a huge episode today.
You got Carter, you got Crawford. We got a peanut gallery today. Welcome to the peanut gallery and welcome to the guest, Scott Middleton.
Hey, what's up, guys?
From the Cancer Bats. Yes, please. That's awesome. That was awesome. I appreciate that.
It's good to give him an audio background and clap.
Scott's been playing guitar and writing songs for 26 years. He's a founding member of the Cancer Bats here in Toronto, which is a heavy-hitting metal band from T.O. Is it into? It's like GTA, like T.O. or is it like...
Yeah, that's, I mean, if you want to get technical, we started the band in Montreal. I didn't live there, but I used to travel there because our singer Liam, that's where he lived. And
wow.
We'd always talked about starting a band, and one day he was like, I want to start a band called Cancer Bats with you. And I was like, sick, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I used to work for Via Rail back in the day, and I could take the train for free as a
no
employee.
doubt.
So free travel.
Yeah, so I'd hop on the train to Montreal, and then we'd jam. But then we found other guys to be in a band with from Toronto. And then now we're all over the place, and our drummer's in Winnipeg, where he's from. And
whoa,
yeah.
Huge spread out.
So how do you guys, with him in Winnipeg now, do you guys end up coordinating like when you guys do practice dates and kind of things?
Yeah,
I
mean, I think practice just evolves differently. You know, it's the kind of thing, okay, before a tour, he'll fly down early, we'll jam, rehearse what we need to, or, you know, a lot of it's kind of like, because we've been doing it for so long now, it's like going on 15 years this year, it's like, you know, we know the songs that we're going to play.
Yeah, we know what we're going to
We can rehearse them at home, you know, if there's like a serious change or like a song we all haven't played in a long time, yeah, we'll definitely like set time.
Just to get together and run through a couple runs,
yeah,
just
but,
to make
you know,
sure it's perfect.
Exactly.
But other than that...
But I think like if, you know, we didn't know how to play Hell Destroyer anymore after 10 years, it's like it'd be pretty bad.
Are we still on the same page?
You're fired. Get out of here. Okay,
yeah, or sometimes sound checks, you know, like that's it. Just do it real last minute.
Yeah, it could happen.
At least practice anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I actually have a little more of an intro that we got off of. So let me get back into this.
Bring it
Scott
back.
also serves as a producer and engineer for Schoolhouse Studios in Hamilton, which is sweet. People can come and get produced by you. Right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then you now use your quarter century of knowledge to take the work of artists to a new level sonically and structurally. That was kind of in your bio, and I wanted to start with that. When a band comes to Scott, what can they expect from you? Like, what are you doing?
You know, I mean, I kind of reach into my wealth of knowledge that I've gained from working with a lot of amazing producers and engineers over the years, and you know, it's just kind of like passing it on, paying it forward, like everything we've learned along the way. And the number one thing that really helped our band from the get-go is like working with guys like Gavin Brown and Eric Ratz, who like taught us how to write songs better. And you know,
what changed? Let's get into that.
Like I mean, it's structure, it's creating space and dynamics, and looking at like what makes songs that you already love and listen to every day. What makes those actually exciting? Because there's, you know, whether it's, you can think of them in formulas, or it's like it's a certain vibe. It's like it's the mix. It's all these different like elements
all
and
these
how they
small
work together.
Components that play a major factor.
A lot of people just ignore it because they just want to listen to music and they just want to feel it, and that's what they focus on. But you know, that's always the thing that, like, especially when you're working with like new bands, a lot of times that's what's the afterthought. Because especially like in the world that I live in, which is like, you know, big loud guitars and drums and everything, it's people just focus on volume and intensity and aggression, and then they forget, you know, the actual building blocks, right? And that those are the kinds of things, like on our first record, like we didn't know anything about, really. And you know, we had basics down, and we'd all been in other bands and like gotten to a certain point, and then we had somebody come in and like really like rock our world and say, like, hey guys, you got to listen to what you're doing, because this could be way better. And it's so easy to go in and think like, oh, this thing that we worked really hard on is perfect, and you shouldn't change it because then it's not ours anymore. And it's like, no, like everybody can learn and improve, and it's like, it's kind of like biting a little bit of your pride and sort of looking forward to like, hey, where can this take me? You know, and that's the other thing. It's like, I always ask bands, I'm like, what's your goal? What do you want to do? Do you want to just like play with your buddies on weekends and you don't care? Or are you trying to make this your life and make it evolve into your career, a business.
365 days a year of working and
because
playing music, traveling and performing, and recording and writing and
absolutely, and then you have to then look at every aspect of making music as like, okay, what's the goal going to be? Like, how can I focus this record? And I was talking with you guys before about, there used to be records with a lot more filler. Well, people don't have attention spans for that anymore. So you got to make sure every song is a banger. Yeah. And so that's my job as a producer, to go in and try to like sort out the weeds, and find the gold, and encourage the people. Yeah.
I like that. Are there any like common flaws? So for bands who are like, no man, we're serious. We actually want to take this to the next level. We want to do this. We want people like Words Like Wildfire over there. Awesome. Hey, shout out to you guys. This is Peanut Gallery. We have them here. Yeah. By the way, good to see you again. That said, when people come to see Scott, are you noticing like this is a very common thread aside, like because you mentioned earlier, a lot of people miss the mix and the subtleties and a lot of things like that. Is there a common thread other than that, or would you say that's kind of
I think it's, again, the massive thing I always find is it's just poor arrangements.
Got you.
It's really scatterbrained ideas, and it's a lot of like things pushed together. So you'll have like a bunch of different riffs or parts of like songs that different people have mishmashed into like a whole thing.
They try to make it one thing.
Yeah, rather than focusing on the best parts, they just try to get all these things in, and that's what they think makes things great. Sometimes that chaos can be amazing, and I love when that can work, and then it becomes something really special, and what you would maybe say can be more progressive and forward-thinking. It's always worth trying those things, but me as an outsider, I just come in and I just give my honest opinion, and I listen to my instincts, and I say, hey, okay, does this make me feel something, or am I bored? Am I like looking at my watch and like thinking, oh God, how long is this song?
Over?
And so much of it's like editing and just like chopping things down and saying, okay, what's the best part of this song? Okay, well, this is the part that gets stuck in my head. Why isn't there more of that? It only happens once.
Once, yeah.
Let's repeat that. Sometimes that's okay, and like, and this is coming from a guy who, my old band before Cancer Bats, which is this metal band called At the Mercy of Inspiration. Our goal was to literally never repeat anything.
Oh wow.
And it's cool because I had to go down that like extreme, angle of like, okay, like,
man, that would be so.
Like it was like the anti-arrangement, the anti-producer thing, like.
Nothing can be the same from this track.
But then, like a good friend of mine, he worked at a record label, and he called me into his office and was just like, hey man, there's a lot going on here. This is like, you guys are a great band, but there's like
narrow it down.
Yeah, like there's not enough focus, like
so much.
And it's one of those things that like later on it made sense to me. Like 10 years later, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's advice was like really good, and I should have listened to him sooner. But whatever, everybody finds their own, and so I'm trying to be that voice for a lot of newer musicians and in serious bands.
Yeah, people trying to get their name on the market.
Exactly.
You want to help them make the best goddamn music they can to get the best music they can.
Well, for sure. And the other thing is that it's like, I know, the efficiency it takes too, and it's the kind of dedication and hard work, and you can't really ignore any part of what you're doing, or something's going to suffer.
I say you'll end up hearing it in the end too, right? There's going to be that one little thing where you listen to, you're like, that just wasn't.
Well, for sure.
Right? That was the one part we didn't focus on when we were making.
Absolutely, and it's like you find like, you find those answers within yourself. It's like in my experiences, the times where I was stubborn with producers and should have listened to them. It's like, okay, well now when bands are facing friction in the studio with me, I'm like, oh yeah, I was that guy.
It was you.
It's almost like when mom tells you not to do something for a long time, and then you're a parent and you have to tell your same kids.
And you get it.
And that's life. That's growing up.
Okay.
But that is what age of wisdom, right?
Yeah, but it's cool. But so it's like you learn from your mistakes and you teach.
Do I have to separate you two? Do I have to separate this? Just mess around. So we have to go to our first music break. Dom's yelling at me back there. We have Doom Buggy by Big Dirty and Challenge TV by Dead Hands coming up. You worked on all of these songs that we're going to put to the show. So, guys,
awesome.
Again, we're here with Scott Middleton. Check it out. DriveWire Radio. Check you after the break. Carter Crawford, my man, Scott.
See ya.
All right. So
We were in discussion, so welcome back.
I'm bringing that right back to where you said it was called a revoice. Okay, so we got into some cool stuff. I'm going right into that for a second because that was cool. So we were just talking about the efficacy of not having. It started with okay, you can't have video evidence in courts now because we can just doctor it. And then we started talking about and what Scott was telling us is that if Crawford over there sings a song like oh that was good brother, give me it again one more time. If he sings a song 10 out of 10 perfect, and I sing a song 5 out of 10 perfect, Scott can make it sound like my voice sang his notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go deeper on that. What is that?
mean,
like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's technology that can do that stuff. Whether it's obviously the one everyone's heard of is auto-tune.
Yeah.
But then there's companies like Synchro Arts that have Revoice and
Synchro Arts.
Yeah, Synchro Arts, and they have stuff like Revoice Pro and Vocal Line, which is basically like taking performance and time aligning it to another one to make it better. So the idea is that it's like you're a mix engineer, someone sends you something and it's like a poor performance, and there's like backup vocals that aren't sung in time with the lead vocal, but they need to be. But the person's not in the room with you to re-sing it.
Yeah.
You can do some editing and it can do it for you. And it's crazy, but then when you think about, like you're talking about, like the legal ramifications of what that could mean for evidence in a court, yeah, that's scary. But
coming back to music though, like what you said, and then we went right on air, and that's why I wanted to bring it back, because you were like, well, you'll get this thing where maybe the engineer is just like, yeah, cool. They know in their heart of hearts that take could have been done better by the artist. It probably would serve the song to do it better, and then they're just like, you know what, I can just auto-tune it, no one will know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like technology lets people cheat, right?
Yeah, I guess.
But then you can also look at the other side of it, and like another producer, he once explained it to me. He was like, recording is just smoke and mirrors, and you can think that like you're giving the most honest representation of your music, to the world, but unless you're recording everything on the first take and that's what you're releasing, that's not true.
It's not true.
If it's not all done live with the entire band in a room, none of it is an accurate live performance.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
if you're listening to people are like, oh no, I've got everything to be natural. It's like, well, the whole process is not natural. So maybe you can just look at it from the other side a little bit.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line? Like for you, let's get personal with this.
Like I mean, I think that if somebody is like really close and you're like, I can nudge something a little bit more in time, who cares? That's fine. When it comes down to it, it's people are paying for your time, and if people like want to be nickeled and dimed, to make the most perfect record, and you want to charge them by the minute or the hour, whatever, that stuff gets really expensive. And so these kinds of things allow recording to be more efficient. I won't accept anything I'm not happy with, and I just have to listen to my heart. And if I think something is like really bad, or I can see that like the vocalist or the drummer, whoever, is really unhappy with it, I'm going to listen to them. It's not even about me, because they've got to live with it just as much as I do.
It's their piece of art too at the end of the day, right? I'm here to help you make this.
And I want them to be happy, and unless it's like, hey, okay, you know what, we don't have time, because literally if I don't send this to the mastering engineer tomorrow, the record release is going to get delayed, or we miss the deadline. That's when you can have certain conversations of like whether or not you let something slip, or if I cheat a little bit, will this work? I think, again, especially like with digital recording, it's like everything is changed. The music we all listen to every day is like heavily edited, heavily augmented through compression, EQ, and all those things. Almost none of it is the original thing recorded. So what does it matter as long as the song is great? And that's why like I'm always enforcing that. It's like, try to get the best performance, try to get the best song to start with, and you don't have to worry about those little things.
I agree with that.
And those like conversations. There's bands that come to me right from the get go. I had a band right the other day, and they said, hey, on our last record, I really didn't like that the producer that we worked with, I don't know who it was, whatever. He was like, he wanted us to use digital amps and amp simulators and
I
all these things, and they're like, we like using real amps.
Real
So
stuff.
can we record real amps with you? And I was like, of course,
Absolutely.
I love real amps.
Please.
I'm all about that. You know, like yes, like real drums. Like let's get the thing sounding as best as they can, and then worry about fixing little things if we have to.
that you say that.
Yeah,
It's more authentic, right? Like when you're
lipstick
making
on a
music.
pig makes it.
Yeah. I mean,
so
but that's the thing, you know. It's like I've worked with different people, and they're like, oh, like I don't actually have to like play this thing really well, you know, because I know you can edit it. And I go, yeah, but then what happens when you have to play a show and then you can't play the song?
Yeah, what do you do when
And
you
it's
have to
like,
perform?
and I think about like, you know, guys again, like Eric Ratz and Gavin Brown, like on our first records, where like, you know, I came in thinking, oh yeah, I've been playing guitar for, you know, like 15 years now. Like I'm hot shit. I've got a band that people are interested in. Whatever, not, you know, just joking. But like,
Yeah.
you know,
For real,
I felt
for
like
real.
I felt really confident, and
Yeah.
they just like kicked my ass. They're like, nope, that's
Oh,
not how
it's
recording
not
goes.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, you got to play everything on time and in tune, and that means something totally different in the recording studio than it does in the live scenario, where you can just get away with like smashing your instruments, and you know, again, the intensity becomes paramount to like the technicality and the like perfection.
How do you maintain? Okay, so I want to go exactly onto that, and I promise we're coming to your tour, man. I'm bringing it up.
It's all good.
How do you maintain the intensity when you have a freaking click on your head and you're trying to do it exactly perfect, and you're kind of worried about technicality, but the music I'm bringing across is about emotion and not.
But see, and again, so this is where like the other school that I learned from was a guy like Ross Robinson. I don't know if you know him, but he's.
I'm
recorded-
ignorant. What does
so,
he do?
so people know him because he discovered bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit.
Okay,
like,
I know those bands. Yes, sorry.
Sepultura,
Got
like
you.
Roots, and now me produce. Like he's done tons of stuff. He's worked with huge bands like The Cure and At the Drive-In. And anyways,
Right on.
yeah. He's like an amazing producer, but he's from a totally different school where he does everything only from the heart. And he doesn't like care as much about the like ultra technicalities. Everything for him is raw motion and intensity and performance. Of course, doesn't want you to play like you're an amateur or anything like
Doesn't
that.
want to make it wrong.
But
Yeah.
like for him, the other things are the most important all the time. So it's like I've kind of learned from guys that are like really strict technically, and then guys that are like really strict with their heart.
Yeah.
You know, and pushing you in different directions. So that's the cool thing, is that I now, like, in my mindset for recording, I want to exist in the middle. I want the most professional thing I can, but with honest performances wherever possible, and the ones that like make me feel something. If I don't feel something and I'm bored, well, that's when I redo it. You know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it is tough, but you know, one of the things like Ross taught us was like, get the entire band playing in the room when you're recording things like drums. So the drummer's not just like playing by himself,
Trying to think of
lonely,
this thing.
tired, frustrated, listening to the producer yell in his headphones, and you know, has no vibe at all.
But it's like the way I like to think, I like to relate that to the way that I've most recently seen, like the way the Foo Fighters do recordings, is they're all in the big open room studio just jamming.
Yeah.
And they're all looking at each other, making eye contact, making sure we're all syncing.
Well, for sure. And you know, I mean, again, that's what you're seeing in front of the camera.
True, that's in
You
front
know,
of the camera.
But a band like the Foo Fighters, who are like, you know, the best of the best at what they do in so many ways.
True.
You know, are the ones capable of that. You know, it's like you have like, you know, Ricky is just graduated from Metalworks or whatever.
Yeah, true.
You know, and it's his like first serious band. He hasn't lived, you know, the same
spot.
experiences, so
Yeah.
you can't expect them to come with the same tools.
Yeah.
And
You gotta get them
and
in the
that's,
comfortability
and that's why
of
I
that.
think like, you know, it's a lot of bands. It's like they, you know, using a producer as opposed to just getting a guy who records. You know, like, and it's like, again, what's your intention to do this? You know, it's like I'll have young bands come with me and they're like, oh, I don't think I'm ready to record with you yet. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
That's not like, okay, so that's either you just aren't sure about what you want to do, because if you're really serious, then you
You're
just want the
itching
best
to-
result.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, like, you're willing to invest in yourself to do that. You know, and then again, there's nothing wrong with like just going to record with your buddy, because that's fun and it's all good. And you don't want that pressure yet. But when you do want somebody to like come in and say like, hey, here's how we make everything better, and here's how you become a better musician this way. And the reason I say those things is because that's how I learned.
Yeah.
You know? And people taught me. People improved what you know, I thought was already good, and they were like, nope, this can be so much better. And it's like, okay, wow, yeah, please teach me.
Show me how.
You know?
Yeah, let's
and
make
sometimes,
it
you know, it's like, again, it's like you can get in arguments with people over like, hey, like this thing you do, here's what's great about it, but the other 20% could be so much better if you focused on this. I'm here to help you do that. And, you know, again, there's some miseducation. People come in and they think, oh, producer, they just think, that just means engineer, mixer, whoever, it's just the guy that records me.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, no,
it's
like,
not.
I want to do a bit of more of the traditional thing where it's like working really on the songs, the performances, like, I do a bit of all of it, but, you know, that's the thing I think really helps people the most.
Sitting down, being able to talk about it, like talking out the song that you're making, not just let's do it. We're here to do it. No, let's actually.
Because anybody can record. Anyone
Yeah.
can like press play. Yeah, you have to be a certain level of engineer to like. If every band approached me, I wouldn't say yes to working with all of them. I gotta love it because for me this, you know, I've already talked about it. It's like, yeah, the technical aspect, or like, hey, this is really. People are great at their instruments. Well, that doesn't mean I like the music or the songs.
It doesn't mean anything,
you know,
really.
and same thing like when we worked with Ross Robinson. You know, one of the things I worked with him is, that learned from him at the beginning was that he was like, oh yeah, I wanted to make sure that you guys were like cool dudes that I could hang out with.
Nice.
And he was like, yeah. So when I found out from the guys in the band Norma Jean that you guys toured with that I also recorded. That, you know, you're all really sweet dudes. I was like, okay, cool. I think I could work with these guys, and, you know, wanted to like talk to us on the phone, and then like,
right on.
You know, another thing being like, hey, send us demos that you guys didn't record perfectly. Just I want to hear something live off the floor. I want to hear I want to hear you make your mistakes.
Yeah, I want to hear the errors, and I want to hear you guys because at that point it becomes the real. This is all natural us. This is all natural. This is us.
Yeah, exactly. And so that I thought was really cool, and so. You know, again, I absorbed some of that and you know put that into like what I do, and I want to get to know the bands, and hopefully you leave the recording process with not just a great record, you leave with a group of friends.
I say you leave not with just the record, but with a new group of friends as well that you can call on, and you guys will be working again in the future together, and
hopefully sharing a stage. You know, when they get to that point, and that's that's the goal always. Like it's like if. You know, you were talking about before, like, I'm starting to listen to music and I don't like what's coming out that's new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I've had moments like that too. And, you know, the exciting thing is I get to, like, work with bands and make music I enjoy with them.
And that's cool because then you're creating something you both mutually enjoy, and you guys are all enjoying the creation process.
Absolutely.
And what you end up creating, you're just like, you look at each other then and you're just like, yeah, man, that's
absolutely
awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. We do have to end up going to break here.
I have one more question.
One more question.
I'm pushing Dom. Dom gives me the thumbs up. All right.
Dom.
He said no to a peanut gallery mic, so I'm pushing him on the brakes for I'm pushing him back. Okay. So I have a question about. Imagine there's like a guitarist, whether it's heavy guitarist or not, and they're like 17, 18, 19, 25, and they're good. But where do I go? So I want to ask two specific questions. One, what is the best way for that person to be able to like truly expand their art? Would you say it's something like getting a bunch of recordings out? Would you say find other people to play with, like etc.? And two, what is the best way for that person to get the best recording to start to get known? So those are the two. Like, where would you go as far as expanding your music?
Number one, find people to play with.
Love it.
That you can be creative with. Ideally, they're even better at playing music than you, so you can learn from them.
You can learn from them, yeah.
You know, that's always like a key thing, and it was one of the things I did really young. Is I joined a band where I was barely good enough to play in, and all these guys like taught me. And every band I was in, I learned more on the way. And then the other thing is just learn to write songs, like as many songs as possible as a band, on your own, whatever. I think that was again one of the things that helped our band along the way was, you know, sitting and going, okay, we need to write an album, but we don't want the whole thing to just be whatever. We know we can do better, so let's write more, and then pick out our favorites.
The ones that we like the most.
Pick out the best. And this is the thing I encourage every band I work with to do is write more songs. Okay, you want to record 5? How do I know all 5 songs are going to be good?
Right.
Yeah,
You
write
know,
write 15.
Yeah,
write
write
20.
15,
exactly.
then choose 5. Yeah.
Yeah, like because every song.
And
That's
it's-
the whole idea with those.
I think it's
those
really arrogant for
catalogs.
anybody to just think that they've got like the golden ticket in
Yeah.
every single song on the record.
Yeah.
It's like
No, that's
no,
true.
like let's
be
you know,
realistic
see
here.
where that can go.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you know, at the beginning, learn how to record yourself. You know, whether that's like.
Could you maybe
just
shed
like-
a couple tips on like, okay, I have an amp, I have a mic, I have an interface, I have a laptop, but what?
I mean,
Is it really just like turn it on and record it and see how it sounds and do it again?
that's
and
where it
again?
starts, and then the next thing would be move the mic position.
Yeah,
You know,
searching positions.
and then listen to the recordings that you already like, and try and see what's different about it and why it doesn't sound the same way. And I'll tell you from the get go, it's not because of the gear that you buy.
Upgrading your
that
gear isn't
can-
going to fix it.
Yeah, I mean that can get you tonally in the thing, but it's also so much of the tone is in the hands.
Yeah.
In the world that
Your
that I
techniques of
exist in,
your
that it's-
picking and your
yeah,
hand movements and
exactly.
things,
Like
that's it.
it's you can listen to a recording and it's like that's where the tone, that's where the character comes from. But there are certain steps along the way that you've got to climb to, and if you're listening, like, why don't my guitars sound like that? Well, because I'm not playing it the same way this person would play
Yeah.
it, or I'm not playing it tight enough. And that's the thing is like really learn to like see like if you put if you find a perfectly timed drum beat, rather than just a metronome, but like pick a drum beat and then try and play to it and then record it and then look and see where the transients of your guitar, and you have to do this with a clean DI track.
That's the peaks of the waveform.
It's the peaks of the waveform that when you record, you can see where it goes.
Where it strikes, yeah.
in the DAW, and look where those line up with the kick and the snare. Are they way off, or are they kind of close? The closer you can get it, probably the better
better
and
it's
more
gonna sound, yeah.
professional it's going to sound. And
Interesting.
It's small things like that they don't probably teach you that in music school. They just go, oh, you got to play in time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
Huh.
but when you start getting the visual representation of it, you can then, your mind starts thinking, oh, here's where I'm
This is
doing.
where-
yeah.
Oh, I'm always late on this.
I mean,
and then you start understanding the mechanics of your playing on a different level when you have some information.
Yes.
Say the information that you know what you're
and then
doing
you can
now.
improve it. I mean, this is like minute level stuff. Really digging in.
But it made a huge difference for me. That specifically.
Yeah, but I would say if you're a guy and you've got a band, I shouldn't say a guy. If you're a person, you got a band. You got like a song, record it with the whole band in the room, and then take the time and see the difference of the sound when you each record separately.
Separate parts and then put
And
them
see how
together.
that influences the arrangement and the feel. Like compare those two recordings.
What sounds
See what
better?
it sounds like when you isolate. See what it sounds like when you mic up different parts of the speaker or the different parts of the drum. Or what does it sound like when I record a singer who's singing right up against the mic versus
Back,
up
yeah.
2 feet back or 2 inches back, and just make notes of like how that influences what you want to hear. And that's when you sort of like expand your tonal palette and vision. And I think like the more you do these things, you just learn. With each recording you do, with each mix you try to attempt, whatever it is. I mean, that's exactly how I always did it.
You just gotta become a little more
Yeah.
aware of things
And then-
as you're going and
I mean,
progressing and moving
like,
and
like, the young people of today who are just getting into this stuff. It's like, growing up, I didn't really have the internet when I was in high school to teach me about recording. Like that wasn't a thing. YouTube wasn't a thing. There wasn't entire, schools that would teach you to record a certain kind of music online
for free kind of deal,
just as
yeah.
just as well, or maybe even better than really expensive recording schools.
Yeah.
And like I went to, and it's like there's such an advantage that no one needs to be scared. I mean, it's like technology is like here to help you. It's not.
Yeah, it's our friend,
It's not
right?
the burden.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, that it's one of those things is when I travel as a producer and I meet people of all different ages from different countries, I'm amazed at how good some of the younger musicians are compared to like when I was 18 and I met so many musicians and myself included that just weren't really that good. And
just playing music just for the fun of it, and
yeah, but we also didn't have the same information. It was like either you could learn music by ear,
or maybe not,
or maybe not, you know. And now you have like, you know, the tab to any
Let's say
song you
electronic
want
tabs
to
are
learn.
in, yeah.
There's a visual lessons by like 100 different teachers everywhere, you know, like all these things, and it's amazing. And that's why it's like all these young bands that I'm like recording now. It's one of those things I find sometimes the younger musician is the better one.
Are the better ones. That's awesome though. That's
because I see the gap between, you know, if I'm recording someone in their 40s compared to somebody in their early 20s, sometimes it's scary how good. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Imagine like what you're going to be doing when you're 50 or whatever, you know, like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And
that's also so good to see as well because of the potential that's coming up in the scene.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. It's super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Two questions end up being an extra 6-7 minutes. Look, it's good information. It's good information.
Dom, put the whip down. Dom. No,
he's out of the room. It's me now. It's me now. I inherited that.
Okay, we got the bed of nails from the Cancer Bats coming up, which is gonna be sick. I want to hear it in the room, Crawford. We got Scum by Champion Lover, and we got Out of Time by Lawless Sons. Catch us on DriveWire.
See ya, Tori.
Yo, that was some exclusive music here on DriveWire at CFRE. I believe it was two of those. So it was Scum by Champion Lover. The second one you guys heard, that was completely exclusive, completely unreleased, right? That's
both of those.
Okay, sweet.
Out of Time
and then Out of Time
Lawless Sons,
and Lawless Sons, exactly.
Yeah, it's two bands I produced. I guess a lot of the music is too.
Well, that's the whole gear of the show is what we did do today. We're hoping every music
which I think is
all about you.
Which I think is amazing because you know it's like there's so many other radio stations that just have to play the same 40 songs every day, and that gets a little boring. So let's give some new music to the world, right?
Let's give the new music to the world.
Yeah, and I mean these are both local bands. Champion Lovers from Toronto. They're an amazing band. I can't wait for their record to come out. It's almost done being mixed right now. And,
right on.
And hopefully, everyone will get to hear that soon. It's really cool when when I get to work with a band whose music I really love so much and have really grown to be good friends with these guys. And it was cool, like on our last tour to the East Coast of Canada, Jimmy and Bill from Champion Lover came to our Charlottetown show in PI and we hung out. And
wow.
Yeah, it was
super
good.
Cool.
It was good fun. So it's a real pleasure working with them. And then another local band, Lawless Sons. It's guys I've been working with a couple years, and they're a band that was a great example that like when I first started working with them, I was like, we're sort of talking with them about working together. It was kind of like, hey, you guys are in this transition, they'd been doing something a bit more punk rock kind of thing, and they were like, they kind of want to do something heavier. Like, this is kind of more what we're into, and I kind of helped them push them that way.
That level.
Kind of tried to like soak in what it is that they needed, and and tell them honestly, like when, hey, like this isn't there yet. Let's push more, and see how far we can take you guys, and work on the material together. And it's really cool. They've been, touring around Canada now. They're going to play a show with us in Oshawa next month. I guess the end of July.
Right on.
Yeah, which is really cool. And that's always exciting when I get to like see a band that I've worked with, get good enough for us to ask them to play a show.
Yeah.
And that's
almost like an honor, right?
Obviously it's like I'm really excited, but it makes sense because, I'm having fans of my band write to me and be like, yo, I checked out that Lawless Sons record you did.
So
I really like this.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And I'm like, okay, sweet. That makes sense. And I'm not surprised because it's not really that far off from what we do in Cancer Bats, which is cool. But again, it just that's always the goal anyway.
Absolutely.
To see these bands like become the next generation, the next wave that influences the future generations.
That's just
you know?
it, right? Because the torch has to be passed eventually, right? Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
cancer bats have been around for how long now? Like
15 years.
15 years is this year.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy,
it's like that's so awesome. But and then we gotta look, and then we even look to the older bands like Tom Petty, let's say for example. Rest in peace. But like, how old and how long were they around for? When were they handing that torch off? And it's like we're at that point where we have to help, as you say, kind of help the younger, new evolving artists become.
And it's cool
Which
that
is awesome.
you get to do it. So the way that I interpreted it, which was exactly on the same length, Crawford, is just like you're lifting them up, right?
Yeah.
You're using what you
Well,
have
I mean,
now to
honestly,
bring them
like,
to a higher level.
The number one reason I enjoy this is because I get to help people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the most satisfaction. It's not about any money you make or whatever. It's the idea. It's like people have this, this goal or a problem or whatever it is, and if I can help them,
Create
realize
it.
what they want to do and
Yeah.
focus on it in the best way, like that gives me the most satisfaction. That's the big win for me.
The smiles on the band's faces when they're hearing that final recording has to be such a rewarding.
Oh yeah, and I mean,
feeling
and
almost.
and mine too. That's what I want. Like to see them be happy. That's the goal. So
I'm watching them listen to the song. I'm not listening to anything. I'm watching them react to hearing it, to see how they react. Yeah,
I
that's
like
awesome. Yeah, that really does make the
That's
difference
cool.
there as a producer and engineer.
Yeah.
That's really good said, because you care equally as much about them as you do the music you're helping them produce.
All right, Avery from Words Like Wildfire is going to fight me if I don't talk about this tour. So we have
Do
to
it!
carry on.
Do it!
About this tour.
Get it right.
He's got a knife.
Cancer Bats is doing some cool things this summer, and I
Yeah.
have been promising myself to
Huge
talk about
year.
this with you, but I've been so interested in what you do that
yeah, well, I mean, we're one of those bands, like we're always on tour. We kind of have been since day one. Really, we don't really stop all that often, and the summer's one of the best times to play. It's nice out.
It's nice. Festivals
all around the world. That's the thing, and so the next tour we're doing Hellfest in France, which is really cool.
That's so cool.
We're doing some shows with the band Beartooth in
That's-
Spain and France as well, and then there's a festival in the Netherlands called Year on Air that we're doing, and then that leads into some Canadian stuff again. That Oshawa show, which I think is on the 25th or 26th.
I will verify on your Instagram.
Yeah. I think it's the 25th in Oshawa at the Oshawa Music Hall.
Music Hall there?
And then that's basically a lead up to playing Heavy Montreal, which is like the best heavy music festival in North America as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we played it a few
100%.
times, and it's always like I'm so happy to go there and finally see a music festival that's on the level as all the amazing ones that happen in Europe. Because
Europe is a lot more like heavy.
Well, yeah, but they've been doing like festivals there like for 40 years, and it's part of their culture.
Yeah.
and it's like so you see like multiple generations of families attending these
Attending
things,
the festivals,
having a great time, and it's one of the reasons why I think music culture is so much more important
Over there?
over in Europe and the
Okay.
UK and stuff. It's just they've all grown up with it, and that is like obviously people always love music in North America.
sure.
It's not saying they don't, but they don't live it entirely as the
like
same
they
passion, not on the same like extreme level, and so. There's a reason why you see all the bands that you love going to tour in Europe in the summer.
They're always in Europe,
It's the
yeah.
festivals, and it's like that amazing thing. But anyways, back to Heavy Montreal. It's just like
which is the 27th.
It's
the
we're doing
27th
the
of July.
27th.
Yep.
Okay,
And then
because we're
Oshawa
playing
is the
Sun-
26th of
yeah,
July.
because we're
Got
playing
you.
the Sunday.
Wanted you to
Oshawa's
just
on
have
the
it
26th.
right.
That's
Go
it.
there, buy
Yeah.
the tickets, be at the show, man. These
Yeah.
guys are
I'm gonna
awesome.
shoot to be at the
It's a hell
Oshawa
of a
show. I
life.
can almost guarantee that. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I've managed to just the first time I saw you guys, I had no idea, and I'm pretty sure it was at Sneaky D's.
Those
And
are
I
the
got
best
down there,
shows.
and I was like, "What is this?" And I just got in there, and then it's
That's
been like
awesome.
a fantastic.
I'm glad you got to go to one of those. Those are like some of my best memories as a band. Like I can remember the first time we sold out Sneaky D's,
Wow.
and that was like this huge milestone.
Yeah.
I still have the poster from that show, and
Sold out stamp on
well,
it.
yeah, I don't know, but
Dude, it matters, man. Your first sold out show is
but
cool.
it felt really good, and
Absolutely.
also because like Sneaky D's was the place where like after band practice, which we had every single day,
Yeah.
Because that was the thing with our band, is that we would go have band practice every day because we're like, we're taking this seriously.
Yeah.
If we want this to be our
It's a
life,
full-time job.
we have to do this every day.
Yeah.
This isn't like, hey, just part-time, whatever.
Let's
It's
play
like,
on Mondays. No,
exactly.
no,
It's like,
every day.
No, it's not just a weekend thing. This was like, hey, this is gonna be our life. We need this band to like, do something. So we worked really hard. And anyways, after like 8 hours of jamming and writing, we would go like have nachos at Sneaky D's.
Nachos at Sneaky D's.
Yeah, and like that became like our spot, and like all the people that that run that place, George and his family, like they're like great friends, and we always have like really strong connection to that crew of people and that place.
That's cool. I had no idea that there was such a
but
connection.
I'm just happy because every time someone brings it up, I get this like flash of memories
nostalgia.
of we did the secret record release show for this record there. Oh, we filmed a DVD there. Like, we sold out our first show, whatever it was. It's just like those moments.
That's
and
hometown.
and
That's
it's
home
like,
free. That's
yeah. So it feels good. It feels good, and yeah. But the cool thing is then we continue that in other places, whether it's Oshawa or somewhere in London, England.
Let's say London, England, London, Ontario, anywhere.
Exactly. I mean,
Moncton,
the same thing. So like when we did our 10-year anniversary of Hill Destroyer, we did 4 nights in London, England at this bar called the Underworld, which is in Camden.
Okay.
And which is kind of like, I guess, comparative to like Kensington Market or something in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a stretch, but it's kind of like the punk rock metal center of London. And so when we toured on Hill Destroyer, like that was the venue that we played. So we wanted to go back there and relive those memories. The nostalgia like worked, and it was really really cool. And
do you think your constant touring had a play in building your band's following?
It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, paying attention to making good records that we're proud of. That's first.
Pretty important.
But then,
sure.
It's like, what's your job once you're like, you're signed. A record label
The
just put a bunch of
out.
money to have you record with like a wicked producer, and the album's out. It's like your job is to then show it to people.
Yeah.
And to return that faith that a label put into you, and
return the investment to the fans,
and,
right?
and,
Because, like,
and
you
take
paid
the risk,
money.
make the sacrifice. I mean, don't go like halfway on it. Like commit, like really focus. And that's always the thing that I'm always encouraging bands. I'm like, guys, okay, you want to do this? Because they're always like, hey, how do we do this? Everyone's looking for the magic bullet, the shortcut, and there's smart ways to learn how to do all these things. But the number one thing was that we just tried to play to as many people as often as possible as we could, and try to make connections with other bands that gave us a chance. Always said yes to every opportunity, no matter what. No matter how far, whatever it was those risks. Those just like led to more opportunities, and and I think of times where we could have given up or just been like, we just got robbed, or our van just got broke down, we don't have money, that all the things along the way, and it's just like, well, those are just tests of our endurance and our commitment, and we just focused on our career, and that's what like let us travel around the world, really. It's like,
which is huge.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen a lot with, because again, I'm from London, so I the Fanshawe MIA bands, I've befriended a lot of people that are in all these bands that are, up and coming groups that are, the one group I know of, they actually got a 1-song contract with Universal Music. They ended up winning that in a contest. So it's like all these upcoming bands. And I know I've seen that happen at least half a dozen times, where a band they'll do shows out of town, and they'll be doing a whole stretch, and then their van gets broken into and their gear gets stolen, and then all of a sudden that band is you never hear from that band again, or they almost just get discouraged and they don't have the funds to equipmenting themselves, and it's like then that band ends up dying. And to be able to push through that and just be like, no, this is all part of the game that we're playing. This is the game is this way.
We've been on the tours where bands have like, canceled shows and dropped off for some excuse or another, and it's always sad and disappointing. You're kind of like,
It sucks.
you know, yeah, but there's also the part of you that goes, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe this is our opportunity. Like,
We get an extra set now, like
yeah,
extra longer set.
yeah, maybe or whatever, and you jump on that, or again, talking about like, I don't know, like in like 2007 or 2008, we did a tour across Canada, and it ended in Victoria, BC.
Okay.
And while we were playing, our van got broken into.
Wow.
And luckily, none of our gear
Our
was
gear
in
was
it.
there, yeah.
But some people's passports.
Oh.
All of like our singer Liam's clothes was stolen. Our merch guys, like computer and a bunch of stuff. Like, was all
Valuable
taken.
stuff.
Yeah, and and it was frustrating because you're like, oh, it's in the middle of the day in a really nice city. Bummer, and it just like
Yeah.
put everybody in such a bad mood because not only that, but because the next step was that tour led right into going on tour in the States. And it was like, oh, you don't have passports.
We
We
don't
gotta
have
cross.
passports.
We
Yeah, how do
gotta
we get to
like
them?
cross the border in a couple days.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I improvise this? Okay, I gotta call the cops. I gotta get a replacement.
Yeah.
Gotta get photos. Like rush.
I can waste all this time being negative about what happened, or we can focus on just overcoming it, moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah. And then because the show that we had after Victoria was in Austin, Texas, for
wow.
South by Southwest, and
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, and it was like it was at this venue called Red 7, and the show was with this band Municipal Waste, who's this classic thrash band.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we were really excited to do that, but then we had this like huge, annoying setback, and like whatever. We figured it out, and then we're like, okay, this set us back this much time. If we leave right now, we might make the show.
Whoa.
We might make it. Might make it. We think we'll make it. And then we drove, and we get to like Salt Lake City, and like our bassist Jay had been driving for like 10 hours or something crazy. Like he's like a real like powerhouse that way. And he was like, okay, I need a break. And I was like, okay, I'll switch out with you. And I get in, and I'm driving on the highway. We're in like Utah, and all of a sudden, Jay's in the back seat, and he like just made himself like a peanut butter sandwich, and then the side window of the van, out of nowhere, just like completely shatters.
What?
And he's like covered in like
Little glass,
little glass particles.
Yeah.
He's just like glass in his peanut butter sandwich. And he's just like, and I was like.
It ruined my sandwich.
Everyone's like,
the
what happened?
van
Did
just-
somebody just shoot our window? Like, we never figured out like really what happened, but we had to like pull over and like
That's
we
the
ripped apart some
craziest
merch
thing.
boxes and like duct
Duct
taped
taped
them
them, yeah.
to the the window hole, and then
You guys look like the sketchiest
Yeah,
people
and then, like,
driving to
Growing up,
Texas in
guys,
that
we had
van.
a merch computer, I swear, but we got it thefted last night, and we had
Yeah,
merch, and it got
and that was the
thefted,
thing.
but-
So like I can't remember the hours if you want to Google Map Victoria to Austin.
It's ridiculous.
Oh my God,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
like
I do
3
it, but
days
it's
probably.
crazy.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Let's say it's 40 hours or something.
It's gotta
Something
be.
crazy. It was
I
like
got
a
you.
really long drive. We didn't stop, basically. It was just like
Just the whole way.
just rotating shifts driving. And we pulled basically we got there, the band before us finished, and we like opened the door. They're like, okay, can you load in? We're like, yeah. and we were like, stinky, sweaty, exhausted, pissed off, all like bummed, all those things.
But we're
like
here
from
for
the
the show.
like everything that happened.
Yeah.
And then we played like probably the angriest set of our life.
Oh, no.
And it was like
38 hours.
38 hours. So
That's
it's not close to 40.
ridiculous. That's
So
so
dumb.
crazy.
With a smashed window along the way.
Yeah.
And maybe
It
a
would be
nap
loud.
somewhere. It's like you're talking 45, 50 hours with gas and
Oh
everything,
my
right?
gosh.
So, so anyways, we played the show, and it was awesome. It was a great show.
Great show.
Cool. And you're like,
It had
yeah,
to
went
be.
over, Municipal Waste played, that was great. But the crazy thing was, so that night was when, it was the night that, like, we met the managers that we would sign with.
Oh, no way.
The editor of Kerrang! Magazine was in the audience, and he was, like, completely blown away, and he was just like, I'm going to put you on the cover of the record, or sorry, the cover of the magazine
Cover
next
the
month.
mag, yeah.
Which is like...
Which is it's
Yeah,
huge
it's like
honor.
it's like the biggest rock magazine in the UK,
Absolutely.
right? And so we were just like, what?
Whoa.
Like, this is crazy. Like, because in our mind we're like, do we even play that well? But it was that extra bit of commitment, those little things. And of course, that's not going to happen,
Every show,
99
for sure.
out of 100
For
times.
sure.
But by that point, we had already played probably like 300 shows or 400 shows or something over a few years, and it was just like, well, on that like, 399th show, maybe that was the one, and then things, started to really change, and it was like, it was meant to be, and it took that amount of time, and it was pretty cool for us, like, to say, okay, like, we did this.
Yeah, this is all, like, we did this.
And that's the thing, like, I keep telling bands, because they'll be like, oh, well, I don't want to go play a show to nobody, and it was just like, yeah, but you're not somebody yet, so like,
you gotta prove yourself.
You're a bunch of musicians, and you need to prove yourself.
Some of the best shows that I've seen just acoustically have been on like bars where you just end up being just a guy performing or a girl performing.
You gotta convert a few people at a time, and things grow exponentially, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I can remember the first time that we played a show outside of Toronto where people like sang the words back to us. It was like Calgary on our first tour, and I was just like, oh my god, somebody knows us, and I don't know these people. This is crazy, because like it was like one thing to like start playing like good shows, and it's like, at Sneaky D's, like first show we saw, and it's like, yeah, but we knew more than half the people in the room, and it was just one of those things. And then we go to this place, we don't know anybody, and people are freaking out just as much as like, our best friends are, and it was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you make the next step where you're like, I just played in a country where everyone speaks a different language than me,
and
they've all taken the time to learn the songs and the words, and
crazy.
And it's like those little milestones you kind of like build on, but you don't forget that, you gotta like we're still doing stuff like this, and we're still lucky to play places like we just last year we toured China for the first time.
Wow.
We went to Nepal and played a festival in Kathmandu, which was really cool,
That's
and learned about a whole different music culture that most people don't know about from Canada. And
that's an entirely different show right there, just on only that.
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
very cool.
But the amazing thing is like from both those places. So it's like we got to go to Nepal because there's an amazing metal band there called Underside, who's like the biggest band in their area. They play like really heavy music, something maybe kind of like Slipknot or something like that.
Oh, right.
And they absolutely crush it. And we became like amazing friends with those guys. We took them on tour in Europe.
Wow.
And and they went over like really well. And they brought us to their like festival and treated us
equally as well.
Yeah, just like family, and we never met them. It was super cool. And it's like, okay, we're gonna pay that back. And then it's going to China. It's like this band got on our tour, and they're called Spill Your Guts. And and so they and they're an amazing band because they basically they're none of them are Chinese, but they've all lived in Shanghai for the last like 10 years.
Oh wow!
And so like there's a couple Canadians, the singer's from Russia, the guitar player's Scottish, and they've all moved to China, and they met through their love of heavy music, but these guys, like, they've been doing a band for like a few years now, and they want to take things seriously, so they were like, okay, like we're gonna get on tour and do these shows in China with Cancer Bats. But then they took it a step further, and they were like, hey, those guys obviously don't speak the language, they don't know where they're going, and so they like helped us.
Let's be their chaperones.
Kinda, yeah. And like, hey, like, you guys have a day off, I can be like your tour guide in Beijing. And it's just like their drummer Tyler is like the nicest dude, and like, and they went the extra step and like built these like relationships, and then 6 months later, they fly to Canada and they're recording an album with me. And it's like, wow. And it's this amazing like natural thing where you're like, yes, we're like making music and playing music and touring with like people who are like becoming some of our best friends, and like and doing it together. And it's like those are like really special moments because it gives me like hope and that we'll never grow bored of this, and we're still going to stay hungry, and we're going to stay excited because you have these worthwhile moments of like that we can still experience something new, even though we've been doing it 15 years and played thousands of shows or whatever it is now, and it's like there's still more to learn, there's still more to see, and
like you said, the whole like you supporting them, and then them equally supporting you back, and then you guys scratching each other's backs as you go along the way, and then the whole humbling feeling of seeing them and now recording them and helping them release this unreal album that's going to put them on the market and like it's going to expose them.
That's it, and you know, and that's the thing forward, and then you know, and then it's amazing because you know you have like Spill Your Guts when they came over, like one of the things that like worked out really well is like my partner at the studio, Nick, he plays in this awesome band called Hellbent, and they were like, they hooked up with Spill Your Guts, and we're like, let's do a Canadian tour before we record the record.
Before we do the record,
you know, and so
to get our name out there, so people know who we are.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh,
and it's a smart thing. It's like
Absolutely.
I love the forward thinking, you know, aspect of these bands, and it's like, hey, if we team up, we're going to do something great together, you know, and I encourage more bands to do that, and then it's awesome because then you have, you know, along the way, it's like, they're like, oh, you know, I need help with a show, and I'm like talking to a promoter here, or, hey, we need somewhere to stay, and it's like, oh, my buddy Tom
here.
from the band Eagleson in Ottawa,
Yeah.
like, he'll help you out, you can crash at his place, and then now Tom's hiring him to do like his band's new website, and you know, and it's
making the connections and connecting.
Yeah, and it's like it's helping build, whether it's a scene or if it's just a community, those kinds of things. And I'm always like trying to encourage the bands that I work with to like seek out other bands to you know, to network with or to tour with, because that's all we did in the beginning. Like it was just like you know, like I can think our very first tour, the one I talked about, playing that Calgary show.
Yep.
We were supposed to tour with the band Attack in Black.
Okay.
Okay, and from the, I forget exactly, but somewhere along the lines they had to cancel the tour for some reason. We were like all bummed, and then like our friends in this band, Six City from Winnipeg, were available, and we're like, okay,
you can do a show.
You don't sound anything like us, but hey, who cares? We need a band to tour with.
Yeah.
Because just going on our own is less exciting than like going with other people.
For sure.
And like
it's a one man show, you know,
it's just that idea. So, you know, there'd be shows we'd play and like nobody would know who we were, but they knew who Six City were, and they came out and watched, but they left a Cancer Bats fan, you know, and it's like those things along the way, and it's like you always talk about like, you know, trading shows and doing stuff like that, but it's not about trading shows. It's about just like helping someone else, stepping out and saying like, hey, I can help you guys get this opportunity. Because if you start thinking like selfishly, and it's like you think every band's your competition, it doesn't
you're gonna
work.
fail very quickly.
The music community is so small that it's the last place you want enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to get more friends and family involved, and less of the negativity. Just think about like, hey, how can I help these other people?
Help each other,
because that's what will lead to other things down the road.
And that brings me back to the whole fanshawe scene as well, where all these MIA bands and all these different house shows and different house venues that would pop up, even though every, you know, show had 3 of the same 8 bands that you saw the previous weeks or whatever, it was groups of friends all coming out supporting each other. People from the different bands that weren't on the bill or venue that night, they're coming out supporting the guys that were, and then right back vice versa when those bands aren't on the bill this week, and then those guys are. Guess who's in the crowd? It's those guys and girls, I should say, from the other band, because it's a very 50-50, very 50 team, and I think that's a big thing we got to realize as well. We talk too much.
No, this was actually tapering to a perfect time to jump in. Like, he gave me 2 minute sign 2 minutes ago.
2 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's been actually exactly perfect. So, we got Western by Sleepy Hungry and Eagleson, Trapped Under Ice. I'm stoked for it. I'm ready for it. Melt my face. Let's go.
All right. DriveWire Radio. CFR. He got the serious glass on.
I put on my Lennon glasses.
Yeah.
All right.
Check Facebook for a picture.
What you're in for is a recap of what I learned from you. All right, Scott. So here we go. I took 4 pages of notes.
The Cole's notes.
The Cole's notes. If my name is Cole, that would have been a big pun. Okay. You solved the issue. That's what you started with. Solve the problem. Like, I really love that. A lot of times I find that people get annoyed. But I imagine when you run into a problem, it's like you kind of roll up the sleeves and you're like, let's do this. Like this, I'm gonna make this my bitch.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has those moments where they back down. Like, I mean, come on. we're not superhumans.
It's true.
I certainly am not. You know what I mean? There's moments, you know, where like I have regrets, things that I should have done or
For sure,
didn't.
man.
You know,
But you generally
But-
lean into the problem.
yeah, but here's the thing: is that you learn and you go, I got nothing from backing out of this.
Love it, man.
I got nothing from doing the negative thing or the selfish thing or whatever. It was when like I started focusing on what else can I do?
What can
Can
I
I
do
do more?
otherwise?
What could
Yeah.
what could I learn? What could I
Leading
achieve?
into, we talked about structure, the space in the songs you love, how can you make it more like you? And then you got in right after that, you're like, well, what can you learn and what can you change to make it more like one that you're actually trying to be like?
Yeah.
And then I have one note, but I'm going to skip that and come back to it. Then, like, 2 minutes later, you were like, please teach me about, I think it was Gavin and a couple others actually teaching you things in studio.
Yeah.
So you exhibited this, I want to learn and I want to get better mindset, which actually the Words Like Wildfire as well, like a lot of the bands that are seeing success, they never draw the line of this is how much I'm going to know. They're always
Oh,
like,
pushing it
no dude,
further.
how can I learn, how can it get better? And you definitely did that. One thing that I'd never distinguished, there is a difference between using a producer instead of a guy to record stuff.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it's very important.
Yeah, I like that. It's like, it's almost like a whiteboard. Like, you know, you get the mirror where someone's like, look, this is what I think from the outside. Because if you're writing the song, you get these earworms, or you think it sounds like something, but it kind of doesn't, and someone outside can be like, yo, maybe this, right?
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, you also said to be cool. I don't know if you know that. You didn't say like
Didn't
that.
say it exactly
Let's be
like
perfect.
that, yeah.
But you were
Be
like,
cool,
you,
man.
you said
Cool.
you had producers who were like, look, I wasn't gonna work with you if you were a dick.
Yeah.
You know, so be cool, be chill, like be someone that people want to work with, which is a huge thing that I've learned from many more. Like, if you can be the problem solver, and then the next time you know how to solve the problem, and then that adds value to the people around you,
Yeah.
you win. Okay, moving on, because I took a lot of notes. Make the art that you want to hear or see, because this isn't just for musicians. But dude, you were like, you said this off air up front, and I'm really happy you said it on there. You were like, man, I just make this stuff that I wish I was hearing on air. Like, I just, you know, that's what I'm making, is what I honestly want to just listen to.
What I want to hear.
I mean, it's honesty. Be honest to yourself. If you
I
don't
love
like
it.
it,
I love
you're
it.
not going to probably sell it very well.
Yeah, lying to yourself doesn't hurt.
And that's
Everyone
why-
And then
hurts
when you
yourself,
do,
right?
and someone
I
finds
love that.
out
I
that
love
you
it.
weren't behind it, they're going to
Well,
think less of you. Yeah, they're going to
Listen,
call that.
yeah,
sell isn't a dirty word. I'm going to talk about that some other time, but selling's not a dirty
It's
word.
not a dirty
very
word,
good thing.
but the like being genuine,
Yes.
like that's a really important thing.
That's really what has gotten me a long way in the last 4 years. Just being genuine and relatable.
That's why you're on the show, brother. Because I love you, man.
Thank you.
I love you, man. Okay.
You
I
guys
asked you.
just had a moment.
I asked you. We did.
The eyes
We did.
connected.
We
It was
did.
through the glasses. I saw
Listen, this
through.
guy beat me at Shell twice today, and I've had it with him, so I had to make it out. Yeah, twice. It was close.
Are we running games, boys?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to talk about. Okay, I asked you 2 specific things that people could do, and you gave 2 really practical, like usable, actual things. You said play with other people and write songs.
Yeah.
I could not agree more. The playing with other people, like when you see the kid who is younger than you and does play better, you're like, oh man,
Get
I have
that
to.
little bugger.
I almost
But-
swore on air, like
but
it gives me
you
a
I mean,
horrible
when
feeling.
it comes down to it, it's like if you're going to be a creative person, you have to create.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn best and probably create better with other people's help and their experience.
I love it, man.
Mark that. That's the way. That's
Make
the line right there.
make more than you need. So you're the only person who I've ever heard say this, which is really cool. You were like, look, man, if you have a 5-song EP, probably 4 out of 5 are not golden.
Yeah.
So make 5 times as many as you need. Pick the best 1 in 5 of each of those, and now you have, right. It's this exponential
Yeah.
creation versus
It,
what you
it makes me think of that Yngwie Malmsteen famous YouTube video
Yeah.
where he's like, how can less be more? More is more. Of course he says it in his really great Swedish accent, but and that's the only time I would agree with that, is that the more will help you learn along the way. It's more to encourage people to write more
I love it, man.
songs.
To
What we were
believe in
just
yourself
talking
and
about
just write
previously, but you know, that's when you go, more songs is good, but less really good songs from that pile of more songs
Yeah, is-
makes the better
Yeah,
record.
that's what we
Listen,
get. That's the
nobody
best.
listens to the whole Pink Floyd discography. We all listen to the same, like the best 12 songs. All right,
Nice.
I love Pink Floyd. Don't get me wrong. I am a
I mean-
huge fan of them. but there are 12 songs that are way better than the rest of them, and
But
everybody.
you're like the
That's
greatest
true.
hits
That's
album.
true.
There's a reason there's greatest hits
There's-
album.
That's
Exactly.
it. But
And
same
why
thing with
and
Beethoven.
why a lot
man.
of times they outsell other
The bigger
bands'
albums.
signals. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. The tone isn't in the gear. The tone is not in the gear. I'm saying it a third time because it's so true. The tone isn't in the gear.
Buy Marshall Hashtag, but if you can't play guitar, it's not gonna sound.
But how you use the gear does matter. Try moving the mic. Try listening to the recordings and getting them closer or further from what you want to hear or sound like. How are they doing that? Is it super up on the mic? Are they diming it? Where's the tone coming from? Are they getting distortion? Is it regular amps? Is it tube amps? How are they using it? Where is it on the cone of the speaker of the learn about your gear?
I
and then
actually forgot
expand
to
on it.
ask you a question about that
Yeah.
comment. So in that regards to using different placement for your recording process, would you end up with 10 different recordings of the same song at the end of it that just have 10 different sounds?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Of course.
kind of that's what you're going for.
Absolutely.
You're trying to look
Yeah.
to see what sounds best.
Of
And
course. I mean, but then from experience, you learn and go, okay, if I need to achieve this, I know I have to do X.
do this and
You know,
yeah.
like if I want a really powerful vocal, I'm probably not going to record you all the way down the hall. That might add something to it or a specific effect.
A cool
but I
background
probably
vocal
wouldn't have you
maybe,
sing the whole record like that because
Yeah.
you wouldn't really
It's not gonna
understand
sound
the words
awful.
most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And so you just learn those differences, and it's those like little things where they become instinct, and you go, okay, I know if I reach for this RE20 microphone, I'm gonna have a great sounding
Get
radio
the sound,
voice,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because that's
It's what
that's
the
a
mic
classic
does.
radio mic. You know,
Yeah.
it's those things. There's some tried and true things, but
Interesting.
but experiment because that's where the creativity and
Creative
And along that point, use the available resources like Google and YouTube. That's what another
Internet.
thing we heard from
Yeah.
a YouTube
Yeah, that's-
again. The Peanut
YouTube
Gallery should have a
University.
mic.
it's a thing.
Dude, I
Knowledge should be
cannot
free.
I cannot
It's all-
agree
it's
enough,
just-
man. Like
it's
I,
there.
the things that you can Google, like you can accelerate what you know, which is really cool. And once you find one source that's reliable and is teaching you good things, like I say, like 10x it, man. Like
Yeah.
needle up, get in on that.
Well, for
thing,
sure.
you know?
And then once you're dialed in, then like actually learn from a real person.
that's it.
Yeah.
100%.
I'll say this, like, you know, I'm not going to knock any kind of education. I think going to school is important for
Very
a lot
important.
of people, but it's not everything.
Mhm.
And, you know, if I think about the experiences that I learned in school, they were not everything. It was actual real world experience that taught me so much more about life, which, and in whether it was, you know, starting a career, jumping into being a musician, all those things, like, I was learning from actual people, not just a curriculum,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's where you learn
those
the
things
most.
that can help you, you know, it's like some of those things are important.
Yeah.
You know, but if I think about like, you know, my producing career specifically, you know, like I went to recording school and I learned, you know, basics.
Mhm.
But that's all I learned. And I have no idea what the other people in my class are doing now, but slowly along the years as I worked with other producers, I was like, here's the people who are living it.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, teach me.
Yeah.
I want to learn from you. And like Eric Ratz used to have like a joke where he'd be like, oh, Scott's asked another question, put another loony in the jar. and, you know, because like I'd be like, why are you doing this? What are you doing? What? Teach
Tell
me.
me
Like,
why,
I
yeah,
just
why-
wanted to know everything because this was like my dream classroom.
Yeah.
You know, and
What an attitude.
yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I would bug him and Kenny Wong, the other producer we worked with Rats. And I would bug those guys all the time. Like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this when I'm making records? I'm like writing Ross Robinson, being like, hey man, how do I deal with this scenario? You've done it 100 times, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Just wanna know,
and
learn.
they've all been there, and they, you know, they're happy to share their
Yeah.
information because they're great people, and it's like we all start somewhere, and it's all
Whole learning process.
it's
So-
a learning process.
The
yeah.
next thing that you said, and I'm really happy that you came to it like that, is because you said I love getting to help people, and we talked about you being at your level and just lifting it up. What's interesting is when someone else might be like, holy crap, that's Scott. He's like, but the cancer pass, and they see you on a certain level. You see yourself just on that level in a journey,
Exactly.
but also so do they. So the capital THEY, like the grades. What I have noticed about anyone who is great, like you ask them a question and they want you to know it. Like as soon as they find out that you're someone who has opened your mind to them to help you, they will give you like these gifts of like gold in their weight, like it's just a huge
Wisdom nuggets.
Oh my god!
And slice buffets.
And if you take them, and you mentioned that sometimes they take years to sit in, and then you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like if I could only, but I never say hey, like you're an idiot, because here I am getting this realization. It just took me time to get that seed to grow. Like
if anything, you're not an idiot because you realize.
That's it. I finally came around to it.
Yeah.
But
The last 10 years.
But how many
maybe,
people would even be afraid to ask? Because, oh my god, look, it's Scott, I can't ask him, like, do you know what I mean? So they miss out entirely when in reality that person's very eager to tell you what they want.
Absolutely.
So
many people are.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to be like a freak and start screaming and, you know, and being like a fanboy about whatever, like, and make somebody uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you treat someone like a human and you're polite and just give them respect you would any stranger,
Yep.
you know, then, you know, people are probably going to want to be your friend and talk to you.
See, I'm terrible at that. I won't deny that. I got to meet Crownlands, the duo there from, I believe they're from Oshawa.
Yeah.
I believe they're Oshawa.
Kevin.
Yeah, I'd say Kevin and I honestly don't even know the names, but I got to meet them at a Coheed show once, and it was like, I was that fanboy. It was just like, they were just two dudes at a table selling merch, and it's like, I was going up to them like, oh my god, this is so freaking crazy. Like, I just get to shake your guys and talk to you one-on-one. You guys are talking to me. And they're just like, dude, we're just musicians, man. We're just regular people, you know?
I mean, because they are.
They're just,
We
that's
are.
exactly it.
You
You're just,
are.
yeah.
There's no, that's the thing, like, I've always liked about, you know, my band. You know, we'll mingle with the crowd, we'll hang out, whatever, like, you know, there's no, it's not about being up on a pedestal or any of those things. Like, yeah, it's like we get to play our music on stage, but that's just so short guys like me in the back can see it. And it's like,
we're just performing for you guys because you guys love us so
whatever.
much,
I mean,
and we're just, you know, we're humans like you.
And they give us the opportunity, but nobody's better than anybody. It doesn't mean anything. It's not reality.
Please tell that to Jared Leto, because when I saw him with 30 Seconds to Mars a couple of years ago, there was the amount of security for him just in the crowd, like.
Is what it is. But then it's hard because I don't know him, but maybe if you have somebody like him who's exposed to people who want something from him, or they're unnaturally obsessed with him or in love with him, he just feels uncomfortable around everybody, so he's not going to
be that comfortable level. That is the comfortability thing as well, right?
He's not going to treat people maybe as well. I don't know. That's not an excuse. But
it's definitely
But you
not.
also have to like think about
Think of these
what would
things.
you do in that situation if like all of a sudden you're this?
You're getting attacked by 1,000 fans.
Well, it is. And again, I don't know enough about him.
Attack, right?
Yeah.
The crowd
And we
can be
have seen
terrifying.
fans
I
are
don't
terrifying
blame them.
sometimes.
I personally don't blame them for that.
But that's it. Some people end up being more down to earth, and you get guys like, I don't know, maybe Dave Grohl or whatever, who looks like he could be anyone's buddy.
Just be a buddy,
you know,
crush a beer, watch football game.
And that's the thing, and it's like, and that's super cool, and like that's more relatable to me. But then sometimes, you know, like you said, how people are treated, it ends up turning them into something else, and they go down a different
I mean,
direction.
to go to
That's
the
unfortunate.
most
It happens,
extreme
though.
example, like when Beatles Mania was happening, like the Beatles needed security.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to be dicks to the crowd.
No.
Like when people are screaming and they're all in their like
Literally attacking
insane phase,
Yeah.
like you just have to look. We need some sort of way to maintain this separation between the band and crowd. It's not that we don't love you. It's just like I'm scared right now.
We're
For sure.
terrified. We're terrified.
We've toured with bands that have had security,
details,
you
yeah.
know, and that's the thing. Like we did a tour with Danzig, and you know he had a security guard with him the whole tour. Super nice dude, and you know it wasn't because he thinks you know that everyone's out to attack him, but there are people that go out of their way to ruin his day or to be a troll or a dick or
Once
whatever.
bit, twice shy too. He could have had something happen where he's like, okay, now.
No, he has, but that's it. And I mean, the unfortunate thing is like the first show of the tour, something did happen.
Really?
Like the very first day of the tour, and I was like, whoa,
The
is that
irony,
what we're in
right?
for? And it was like, no, it happened like maybe once or twice out of like, you know, let's say there was like 20 shows or something. It wasn't like it happened every day, but it was enough that it's like, oh yeah, like people are like trying to take cheap shots at this guy.
Yeah.
And you know what? When a
That
real
happens.
fan approaches him and is like, hey, I've got like 30 Misfits, records and posters and comic books and all this stuff I want you to sign. And
Maybe a little more
he would
hesitant.
stand there for an hour signing to like people who like actually
Wanted to
support
talk
him
to
and
him,
like his
yeah.
real fans, and he was actually super nice.
Interesting.
You know, and it's like I love to see like
This is what I love to
that
see.
hey, here's a guy that everyone's like, oh, he's the worst, he's the biggest asshole, this.
But he's not.
He wasn't like that at
Yeah.
all. You know what I mean? He was really cool to us, and that was like I was like, oh, thank God, because I was really worried as a fan of his music, like my whole life, that I would, meet somebody who's like a musical hero, and you're let down.
You're let down,
and
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that wasn't the case at all. If anything, I was
You were-
impressed.
you
It was
were,
super
yeah,
cool.
very
yeah.
impressed. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so it made that moment in our career like that much more special.
I'd say more of a bonding moment, and you think
Well,
that's-
and it's just like it made it like touring with like Danzig or the other band was Guar. Like
Nice.
those are all
That's
bands we listened to
awesome.
when we were little kids. Like literally like 10 years old. I was listening to those bands, and here I am like when I'm in my early 30s and my band is like supporting them on tour, like, and here they are being our friends.
Your friends, yeah.
Being like people like us, and it's like, oh, this is the real dream. This is what makes it like extra worthwhile, because then you have those like actual memories, and like
Memories, yeah.
rather than just like the poster on the wall and you're like, I idolize this person or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that's not.
I remember
that's
when
not
that
a real
person
thing.
did this thing that was so
that's
funny.
not a real thing. That's like a child's imagination. This is like, oh, you're human. You
We're
worked
real
really
people.
hard to get here,
Yeah.
and I'm doing similar steps in my journey through music to get where I want to go.
And I want to help you get there.
And you're there giving us advice or
Yeah.
showing us like, hey, here's how we do things. It's not the same as everybody, and that's the other cool thing is there's no black and white in the creative world. There's everyone's got their
Sounds good is good.
well, sounds good is good, but also just like if we're talking career paths, everybody like
Yeah.
does things a little bit
Different.
differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
No
yeah.
book is written.
And it was really cool for us to
see.
see that. It's like, okay, cool, and here's where we fit in. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's fun. I tried to kind of take you.
No, I was very happy to go down that. That was a cool tangent. Okay, I have the number 1 beside good record. I have the number 2 beside tour with an exclamation mark. Show it to people. You said this really cool thing where you're like, yeah, you owe the record label now. Like, okay, cool. They put something. No, but it was not in a bad way. But it's like, look, if I put my faith in you, please like do your best to show it to as many people as fast
But
as
see,
possible.
this is again where people like look at things with an unrealistic point of view. They think, oh, I got signed because I'm hot stuff. I'm this rock star or whatever I'm doing is super great, and that's why people want to like either give me money or pay for me to do something. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, to a point, but like now you're indebted to them because they've just spent a bunch of money. If you bother to read your contract, you'd see that.
Yeah, the contract.
And,
yeah.
and it's like, but think about it realistically. Like most of the time, like you're like, let's say you're in a heavy band. The bands I work with, it's like they always ask me like, how do I get signed? How do I get signed? What do I have to do? And it's like, well, obviously, other than write good songs and be a great live band.
Yeah, be the best you can be.
But it's like, well, they're like, oh, because they always think like, hey, if I just give that, that record to the guy from the record label, he's gonna sign me. And it's like, okay, maybe. That does happen. Like that, that's not impossible. Like, yes, be ready for that to happen and have the music available and make it great, and put your best foot forward. Yes, but then be able to do it on your own without their help.
Don't depend on one
Because the
avenue.
worst thing, the biggest disappointment for me is when I work with a band and we put the time into the music and the record, and then they go, okay, now what? And I'm like, no, you should already be doing this. Like, I think about, this is the one good thing I learned from going to university. This is the best piece of advice I got at university. So before I went and focused my life on music, I thought, oh, I have to go to university, get a degree in, something I don't really care about because that's just what everybody does in life. And so I wanted to do something creative. And the other thing I kind of liked was photography. So I went to York and took like film and photography there for a bit.
But the one thing.
But the thing that I learned was our photography teacher. She said, okay, you're in photography class. You're all photography students. If you're not already a photographer, you won't be one. And I was like, What? Okay. You know, it's like, and I had to think about that, and she's like, yeah, I will teach you how to be a better photographer, but if you're not already a photographer, you won't be one. You need to already be doing this, and not just at school.
Just starting here.
And that was one of the things that made me think, oh, okay, I'm spending all my time doing music. I need to focus on music. Yeah. And then so
that's a good lesson, though.
And then once I, went to music school and started focusing and put all my attention into music, that's when things started happening. All the
What
things I
an
really
interesting
wanted to
way to
happen.
say, if you're not already doing this. I love that, man.
Yeah, it was huge, and but this is the thing with bands where they're like, they think, okay, we just worked really hard and we're gonna this record, and then it's like we've got an EP or we've got a full length. Okay, it's gonna happen, and it's like, nope, it's already got to be happening. Yes, you do want to maybe give it some time to try and show it to some people.
Yeah.
But if you don't start getting stuff right away, it's like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't tour. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to like grow your reach, market your band, like promote, like.
So if you're releasing an album, I hope that album is already distributed to the 3-5 radio stations in the city that maybe get it played. I hope you're already booking shows to do, to do the music production.
Because at the end of the day, like if you think about it, and this goes back to the record label thing, it's like they're companies who want to invest in you and get a return.
And get a return, yeah.
So when you're thinking of somebody who's like doing a business for money. They don't want to take a huge risk all the time. You find it in the creative world, it happens because they believe in it, but like give them more to believe in. Give them oh, this band has an audience. Oh, I heard about this from someone else because like people are like telling me how good it is. Oh, this band's playing and everywhere they go, 50 people show up. Well, that sounds maybe small, but on a larger scale, that's not bad. Yeah. Oh wow, they actually have decent like streaming numbers online.
Right on.
Like,
that's like
whatever it is, you know, like the criteria changes and advances with time, but like at the end of the day, they want to know they're going to get a return on their investment, and that's how you're going to get signed when you give them something to believe in.
Yeah, and something you recognize from as well, something for the people to put their support behind and then support the, because at that point you're supporting the recording label and everything. It's a self-supporting player.
All right, we're close, guys. We're close, guys. Don't go halfway. Commit. Don't go halfway. Make connections with other bands and play to as many people as often as you possibly can. I love that. This kind of came up. Your endurance will be tested, and just go through it. Like, just deal with the BS as it shows up and go through it. I love, man, your story from, okay, this is us going from, we're doing a show, our like van gets broken into, a bunch of stuff gets stolen, including passports, figure out how to get across the border, get down there, literally drive for literally 40 hours of actual moving car drive time, show up as you're like supposed to go on.
Well, let's not forget the window blowing.
Yeah, how did I possibly forget that? The window breaks halfway through, like all of this insane stuff, and then that was the perhaps potentially huge night in Austin that you actually like things kind of broke through where you met the right people. The biggest wins come right after the biggest losses. Like, I love that, man. That's what that story illustrates to me, and that resonated, man.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same with everything. If you just focus and you start doing this, it's like one day I was just like, okay, I've always wanted to be a producer. I've always wanted to record bands. I need to start recording bands.
Start doing it.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, cool. I get an opportunity to work at a studio. I learned something there. I got an opportunity to record a band I'd never heard of at a different studio I'd never been to, and I was like, I want to record at a different studio I've never been to. That feels awkward. But whatever. Who cares? Let's not worry about what I want. Let's make a good record for the band. Yeah. And then it's like, well, now I work at that studio. Now I have a studio in the studio. Yes. You know, and it's like, and then I made a lot of connections that way. And then, you know, it's like, and then other things. So like that band Sleepy Hungry that we, played a song with before. Like, so that's a band from Slovakia that I produce. And so it's like, you know, a guy showed up at a show and he said, hey man, I hear you're doing some producing work. Would you want to listen to some stuff that I've recorded? He did this like funny test with me, and he's like, I want you to listen to a band I recorded and tell me what you think. And then I like gave him my opinion. I was like, it's cool. Song's not that good though. The recording's pretty good. But you know, I would probably improve this and this and this. And I kind of knew where he was going. And he was like, "Oh, it's my band." He didn't want to tell me. He was like testing me on it. And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's good. There's a lot of good stuff in here." but there's some things I would change. Do you want to hear them? And that led into, us like, taking on this project where he was like, hey, this band that I have is the ashes of a band that did really well in my country, and I'm trying to reform it. These are songs that I had left over, but I have this goal of starting a new band with some of the members, but with new people. But I don't have a full band yet. Will you help me? And I was like, okay, wait. So we're gonna work on songs over Skype together. Yeah, okay. I've never done that before, really, but let's try it.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then so, we worked on and off for a year, and then he's like, okay, I'm really happy, with how everything's gone. Let's go to Slovakia and make a record.
Whoa.
And he's really lucky because, he owns a great recording studio. He was like in a band, but then was just like, hey, I'm not happy in my advertising career. I wanna go in and focus even more on music. And here he is, a super talented guy, but he needed help with direction. And
cool,
and then
We all need help in some places, and we all, we'd never be afraid to ask for that extra guidance if you connect, especially make a connection.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it ended up being a cool thing because like my wife's from Slovakia, so I've learned some Slovak language, so I
Right
got
on.
to use those those
That's
skills.
very cool.
Yeah, and it was like it really helped me because there was moments where I was in a room full of people that like were not speaking English, and it was like, okay, how do I communicate?
How do I communicate with
I
these
speak
people?
like at a child's level in Slovak, but this is still fun, and this band has so much potential that like I'm not going to give up on this difficult situation.
And the
It's
fact that
like-
you're making an effort, I think, means probably so much to them, right? As well.
It does, but it's also like I'm constantly encouraging him because you have a guy who's like essentially like steering the ship by himself
Yeah.
for a project where like the band wasn't completely formed, and I was like, don't give up on this.
Don't give up.
These songs are so good; they're too good to drop. Like keep pushing, and then we have a song the song called Western that we just played, and I mean, to me, I'm just so proud of it. I got to play on it. I got to help them in the writing of it and everything, and it's like it comes down to like that's the best takeaway for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then also seeing playing that song for some people, and they're like, whoa,
They're into it so much.
yeah, and it's cool, and it's like, okay, cool. It's not just in my head. Other people are getting into it too, and just like, okay, I know the whole thing was this huge effort. Don't give up here.
Yeah.
Keep pushing. Like all the stuff that you just mentioned. It's like your endurance is going to be tested.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like if you follow through, I really believe that
Success
that's
can
where
follow.
exactly.
All right, guys.
What a chat. What a
Hey,
discussion.
I'm calling it here.
What a guest.
It's been we were officially off
Yeah.
air like an hour ago almost, so we got you for extra time. Thank you, man. It was really cool to learn from you. I had
Honestly, thank you so
personal
much for
learning a lot.
being here.
Yes,
Let's
Tina
get that.
Gallagher.
Yes, get the peanut gallery.
See, I like that you guys don't
didn't do
go
anything.
halfway. You don't have like an applause track.
Something else live on here.
I honestly think they wanted to meet you, brother. So thanks
Awesome.
for coming here. Thanks for being here. Catch us next week on DriveWire at CFRE.
CFRE, this is Words Like Wildfire, Quarter Life Crisis. I feel like we should mention that.
Coming up.
DriveWire Radio.
Coming up.
CFRE.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you for listening.
My bad.
Until next
My
week.
bad. I should be fired.